Hello MotoGP enthusiasts. Welcome back to ZNGP Today. After a dramatic Brno weekend that produced back-to-back wins, Marc Márquez says he can no longer deny he's in the championship fight. But he issued a clear caveat. Assen is a make-or-break test for his recovery. The Ducati rider has slashed a huge deficit to Marco Bezzecchi and now faces a sequence of races that will reveal whether his recent form is sustainable. His words reflect both the thrill of resurgence and the caution of a rider who knows how fragile momentum can be when fitness is still in question. Toprak Razgatlioglu says Yamaha will run an unexpected sprint simulation during Monday's Brno test of the new 850 cubic centimeters MotoGP bike and Pirelli tires. The Pramac Yamaha rider will sample the prototype machine for the first time and expects a busy day of laps aimed at rapid learning rather than a gentle shakedown. Marco Bezzecchi has apologized after images showed him physically confronting a marshal while his Aprilia was being recovered following a sprint crash at Brno. Aprilia CEO Massimo Rivola described how the team first learned of the incident, accepted the steward's ruling, and outlined the club's immediate reaction as the paddock digests a suspension that removes Bezzechi from Sunday's Grand Prix. Don't forget to click subscribe button and the bell icon for MotoGP news update. Marquez acknowledged that his two recent victories have transformed his standing. What looked like a lost season after surgery and missed rounds has become a genuine title challenge. He reduced a 102-point gap to just 40 points in 2 rounds, a swing that places him within striking distance of the leaders. The turnaround is remarkable given that only weeks ago he was sidelined, watching rivals build their campaigns while he focused on rehabilitation. Yes. I cannot say not. In MotoGP, momentum can shift dramatically in a handful of races. Marquez's surge demonstrates how quickly fortunes can change when rivals falter. Bezzechi's suspension at Brno amplified the swing, but sustaining this pace across diverse circuits will be the true test of his title credentials. Despite the optimism, Marquez warned that Assen will be a critical weekend. He described the Dutch circuit as one that has historically given him trouble even when fully fit, with its fast, flowing corners demanding precision and stamina. His immediate objective is to survive and manage the race rather than attack recklessly. He framed Sachsenring and the post-summer stretch as the period when he might shift back into attack mode, once his body has had more time to strengthen. I need to keep calm. I need to survive in Assen. Assen's unique rhythm often exposes physical limitations. Marquez's cautious approach reflects a rider who understands that one reckless weekend could undo months of recovery and erase his hard-won momentum. Marquez called the Brno win totally unexpected, admitting a podium had been an optimistic target before the weekend. He explained how race circumstances, timing of overtakes, tire usage and a late race battle with AI Ogura combined to give him the lead on lap 16 and hold on under pressure despite a rear slide in the closing stages. His ability to adapt mid-race, conserving energy while still finding decisive pace, was key. The absence of Bezzechi, excluded after his marshal incident, also tilted the balance in Marquez's favor. When I did it, I was able to be even faster. Marquez's racercraft remains razor-sharp. Even when physically compromised, his instinct for timing overtakes and managing rivals under pressure allows him to convert opportunities into maximum points. Throughout his comments, Marquez emphasized that physical condition remains the limiting variable. He admitted to expending too much energy in FP1 at Brno and suffering for it later, and he stressed that he cannot yet sustain full weekend intensity. That reality shapes his strategy. Pick realistic targets, conserve energy where necessary, and avoid unnecessary risks that could derail the comeback. His honesty about these limits contrasts with the bravado of earlier years, showing a rider who has recalibrated his priorities. Managing workload and session intensity is essential for riders returning from surgery. Marquez's willingness to admit vulnerability is part of what makes his current run compelling. He is balancing instinctive aggression with newfound restraint. Marc Márquez has turned a comeback into a championship conversation, but the path ahead is narrow. If he can survive Assen and translate sprint and single-lap speed into consistent race endurance, he will remain a genuine contender. If not, the recent momentum may prove temporary. For now, Marquez's message is clear: the title is within reach, but only if recovery and caution continue to guide his race plan. His resurgence is a reminder that MotoGP titles are not only won with speed, but with resilience, patience, and the ability to adapt when the body demands compromise. Razgatlioglu confirmed the team's plan to pack the day with mileage and to run a short race simulation even at this early stage of development. He admitted the approach is unusual. Why we are doing sprint race simulation immediately, I don't know, but said Yamaha wants to accelerate adaptation to the new engine and tire package. Running a sprint simulation during a prototype test prioritizes race-relevant data, tire degradation, race pace, rider ergonomics, over isolated lap time work. Monday's test is also the first opportunity for many riders to try Pirelli's MotoGP compounds. Razgatlioglu, with extensive superbike experience on Pirelli rubber, is cautiously optimistic but warned about the logistical challenge of switching back to Michelin for Assen immediately afterwards. He highlighted the risk of being on the back foot at the Dutch TT after a full day on different tires. Before riding the bike, also I'm still not see the bike, I'm not easy to say it's better. After the test, I think it's better we talk about this. Tire feel and tire data are central to setup. Limited cross-supplier continuity between test and race weekends complicates short-term comparisons. Yamaha's priorities for the Brno session appear to be basic engine mapping and chassis balance with the 850 cubic centimeters package, initial Pirelli tire characterization across compounds, and race pace simulations to understand degradation patterns. The sprint simulation will give engineers early insight into how the bike behaves under sustained race loads and how the Pirelli compounds respond to aggressive stints. Early rider impressions will guide both tire development and chassis direction ahead of more extensive winter testing. Razgatlioglu stressed that enjoyment and learning are both on the agenda. He said he's really pushing the maximum in recent laps and hopes the test yields a really big step. Still, he flagged the practical difficulty of switching tire suppliers between consecutive race weekends and the uncertainty that brings for setup continuity and rider confidence. Riders who test Pirelli on Monday then return to Michelin at Assen must mentally and physically adapt to different grip, feedback and cornering behavior in a short time frame. Monday's Brno test will be an early, high-intensity probe of the 850 cubic centimeters era. Yamaha's decision to simulate a sprint shows a race-first mindset. Gather usable race data now rather than wait for perfect conditions. Expect rapid, candid rider feedback after the session and a busy debrief as teams weigh Pirelli impressions against the practical reality of switching back to Michelin for the next race. After crashing from fifth in the sprint, Bezzechi's Aprilia stalled in the gravel. Marshals moved in to recover the bike. Footage later showed the rider approaching the recovery crew, pushing a marshal and then striking him. The FIM stewards suspended Bezzechi from the Brno Grand Prix under Article 3.3.2.2 for conduct prejudicial to the interests of the sport. Aprilia was summoned to the stewards and informed of the decision. The stewards emphasized the special status of marshals, personnel acting to protect riders and the event, when upholding the suspension. Rivola said the team learned of the incident only after being called to the stewards. Bezzechi initially told staff he had pushed the marshal, but he was braking, revving the engine, and had not remembered the subsequent slap. Rivola described the rider as emotional and remorseful once the full footage and consequences became clear. Marco said, yes, I pushed the marshal, but he was braking the engine. Rivola framed the reaction as a mix of surprise and acceptance, surprised at the second strike, but ready to accept the steward's zero-tolerance stance. Aprilia lodged an appeal seeking a lesser sanction, a fine or grid penalty, citing past incidents they felt were treated differently. The appeal was rejected. The appeal stewards underlined that aggression toward marshals is particularly serious because marshals are engaged in safety operations and are therefore especially vulnerable. The swift rejection signals the governing body's intent to set a clear precedent on protecting trackside personnel. Bezzechi issued a public apology acknowledging his behavior was unacceptable and expressing remorse to the marshal, the team and fans. Rivola, said the rider, feels sh*t, and that the team hopes the 850 cubic centimeters test on Monday and the quick turnaround to Assen will help him move on. This behavior shouldn't happen, and there is no justification for it. I apologize to everyone. Public contrition is standard. The longer-term reputational impact will depend on Bezzecchi's conduct and any further disciplinary follow-up. The suspension removes a leading title contender from the Brno Grand Prix and cuts Bezzecchi's championship lead to 8 points over teammate Jorge Martin. The absence hands rivals a strategic advantage and forces Aprilia to recalibrate its race plan at short notice. For Bezzechi, missing a round in a tight title fight is a significant competitive setback. In a season decided by fine margins, a single excluded weekend can materially alter title dynamics. The incident arrives amid heightened scrutiny of safety and marshal protection in MotoGP. Many in the paddock are expected to back the stewards' firm action. Governing bodies across motorsport treat aggression toward officials as intolerable. Rivola accepted the ruling publicly, framing it as consistent with a zero-tolerance policy. The case may be referenced in future disciplinary decisions as a benchmark for conduct involving marshals. Aprilia must now balance support for its rider with the sport's disciplinary standards. Bezzecchi's immediate focus will be on the scheduled 850 cubic centimeters test and on repairing relationships within the paddock. Aprilia will concentrate on damage control and on-field performance at Assen. The episode is likely to remain a talking point through the summer, serving as a reminder that rider conduct off the throttle carries consequences as real as those on it. Thanks for watching ZNGP Today, and this is your MotoGP news update. And see you next time!